This is something we had talked about doing for a while. I
Yes.
am live with Tiffany Domini. She is holding me accountable in 2026 about going live more, talking about what it is that I know on a regular basis, making content. I'm being the person that's showing up who I encourage others to be. So, Tiff, I want to thank you for today and starting off, this first part of the journey. And today we're talking about with Tiffany, we're talking about the top 5 things she wants to see realtors stop doing in 2026. If you have an opportunity to follow Tiffany Dominies, I would definitely encourage you to do so. She's always sharing knowledge and information about just the state of the market, state of the marketplace. On a side note, something you talked about with squatters and stuff actually caused me to take my first level of defense. I took a class last week because I went to shoot a house and somebody kicked in the back door. Uh,
No, while you were in there?
no, not while I was in there. Fortunately enough, not when I was in there.
Okay.
But yeah, they kicked in the door, and I'm like, yo, it's getting real out here. So with that being said, I had talked to Blair Woodson,
Okay. My
and
girl,
she,
that's my little
yeah,
sis.
yep. So and she shared with me somebody in contact would take training. So I did the training, sending my stuff to the state so that I can protect, myself in those type of situations. But
Absolutely.
so yeah, so no, just stuff you're always talking about actually comes around full circle. And I was talking to the realtor, and I was like, "Yo, Tiff just talked about this like
Mm-hmm.
last week, and making sure these houses have alarms in them and stuff like that." And luckily, that did deter the person, like having the cameras and alarms. But like I'm seeing it like firsthand now, like more and more often.
Okay, okay. So, and I can elaborate on that because, of
Hmm.
course, that's one of the things that I talk about a lot, and I do a lot of funny stories on Facebook or whatever. But it's actually serious when it comes
Hmm.
to protecting your investment,
Hmm.
and when you become the realtor in a scenario, that then becomes your investment as well. Because if that house don't sell, you don't get paid. So a lot of times, investors will just throw a house on the market in certain areas where
Hmm.
that used to be the focus, where the area is now, it doesn't matter. I don't care where you are. Squatters are savvier than they used to be. When I got started back in the early 2000s, squatters were not so much unheard of, but you didn't hear about them as much as you do now. They have gotten a lot braver. So if you're going to do a full renovation or you're going to sit your house on the market, your house becomes vulnerable as soon as it hits the market, because just like people can see it in the MLS, they can see it on Zillow, they can see it on Trulia, they can see it on Redfin, whatever. So your house becomes a target. Unfortunately, I haven't figured out how they're doing this or who's actually involved in doing things, but
Hmm.
squatters are getting in properties with lock boxes. They, if you go on YouTube, and I probably shouldn't be saying this, but if you go on YouTube, it'll tell you how to scramble a lockbox and get into it. So I don't know if that's some of the things that people have been doing. A lot of times you should have an electronic box. You should have a alarm. The seller should have cameras. When you're doing your listing consultations, you should be telling them this. A lot of investors, they think that they don't need them. I can't understand, like, people have done this amazing immaculate renovation. You go up to the houses on a combo, which is number one. That's a no-no, because people leave it unscrambled, people leave it out unlocked, and a lot of times realtors give out the code. Nobody said it, I'ma say it. They do it. So if you got a buyer that you've given the code out to, not realizing that you can lose your license behind doing something crazy like that, and they
Hmm.
go in the house, they get caught in the house, they giving out the code. All kinds of things transpire when your property is not protected. It makes
Hmm.
it vulnerable. So yes, though, that's one of the things that I want realtors to start doing, is to pay more attention to your listing. Don't just sit it on the market and let it sit there vulnerable. Advise your seller to get an alarm. Advise your seller of what happens if they don't get an alarm. Things of that nature, that is really, really extremely important when you start listing people's houses, because at the end of the day, I don't care what happens, the realtor's gonna get some kind of blame for it.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
yeah, and if you can at least take all the precautions beforehand, and if the seller doesn't listen to your advice, then it's almost like, well, I did tell you this could happen. So yeah.
So let me take it a step further, right? So let me ask you a question because I don't know this.
Okay.
So I have a listing. I'm an agent. and something happens to the property, right, while you are there, do you stay until it gets rectified? Do you
Absolutely.
blow the rest of your day? Like, and that's something like I legit don't know. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Well, I can tell you from my experience, me as a realtor, because I come from an REO background, banks,
mm-hmm,
where the bank is the seller. The seller is not physically in this area. A lot of times when properties got broken into, yes, I had to call, make the police report, stay there till the police gets down. It's a part of real estate. If you have a seller that is local, then of course you can call the seller, tell the seller what happens. A lot
mm-hmm,
of times sellers are they are just blown out of the water when something like this happened because it's never happened to them before. But a
mm-hmm.
lot of investors are a little more savvier and they know what to do or they'll show up at the property. But me as a realtor, um, I just stay and try to make sure everything gets taken care of because again, it may not be your asset that you purchased, but if you want to get it sold, you don't want anybody messing with blowing your chances of selling it, so you want to protect it at all costs.
No, right. Like you said, it's your money. So, but I
Right.
was always just curious because then, I mean, you have other obligations and stuff like that as a realtor. So, like, how do you? So, I mean, I'm sure that, if you had to stay and cancel other appointments, your clients will like and respect the fact that you're doing that to make sure that, that person's investments are, at least protected. So,
Absolutely,
no, that's,
absolutely. And like I said, I come from the REO background, so we didn't have choice. We would have to stay there and make the
mhm.
police report and do things of that nature. And a lot of ways that I operate now in terms of dealing with my investors, it comes from that REO background. So a lot of times I do things that a lot of agents wouldn't do or don't understand that they should do.
Mhm.
If that makes sense.
No, totally. So let's start with that. So let's start with number one. What is the number one thing that you would not do? And then how do you rectify that as an agent? Let's start there.
Well, I guess it would depend on a sense of when we say what we would not do. I guess it depends on what the scenario is. So like you give me a scenario because it's so many
Cool.
different
I'll start with
scenarios.
the number one thing you always talk about. You do not like virtual staging, right?
Okay,
Let's
yes,
say
I don't.
you don't like virtual staging.
Right,
So
right,
one
right.
of the first things that comes to mind for Tiffany Dominies is you want to see people stop virtual staging, right? So instead of that, what would you do and why?
Well, I don't necessarily say I want to see them stop. In terms of the demographic that I service,
Mm-hmm.
the types of houses that I sell,
Mm-hmm.
I tell people all the time, you need to know who your end buyer is. If you don't know, if you're developing a house, you're rehabbing a house, and you don't understand the buyer that you're selling to, that's your number one mistake right there. And I'm going to throw out my plug. This year, I'm going to myself and the Dynasty Group. We're getting into flip consulting. We haven't decided on where we want to go, like the flip strategy or Marcus just came up with a name and I totally forgot what we
Man.
said, but we're going to be doing some consulting with people on properties, such as the ones that I sell, because virtual staging may work for some realtors and some areas, but based on what I sell, it does not work. It's almost like catfishing. So it's almost like you throwing it out there, but when the buyer comes in, all of that's gone, and a lot of people can't imagine a house that's not staged. I tell my investors all the time. Again, I go back into the demographic that I service and the area that I service. You want to give them everything that they see on those pictures. So, for instance, if you go into a model home, it's the new construction model home. What normally gives you the feel to purchase this house? It's the model. The model has been staged. The model looks amazing. So this is what they fell in love with. When
Mm-hmm.
you're doing virtual staging, and I'm not, again, a lot of agents are okay with it. I'm just not one of those agents because I know what it does and what it doesn't do in terms of the investment properties that I sell. So I don't want to make it seem like I'm telling everybody it's bad because it works for you, it just doesn't work for me. When you look at the pictures, I can already tell it is virtually staged. A lot of times, it's hard unless it's a really, really, really good one. Because and I'll go back to, okay, you've done it for me before, and
Mm-hmm.
it actually was not bad. You didn't do the whole house; you did like the basement or something like that, and it didn't look bad. But that house didn't need a lot to sell. When you're dealing with
Right.
houses that are traditionally harder to sell, you got to really push them out to the buyers, you should not do virtual staging, because you want buyers to fall in love when they walk in the door. Your first showing is online. Okay, these days you don't have to actually walk into a house to see it. But then when they get there and they don't see what they saw online, it's a whole different attitude. You know what I mean? And again, not saying this for everybody. I'm just talking based on my experience and where I sell properties. And I tell my investors all the time, for instance, I have one now where he decided to not stage it against my advice. But now 2-3 weeks on the market, you have absolutely no showings. You know what he wants to do now? He wants to stage it. So now you wasted 3 weeks or 3, 4, 5, however long it's been on the market, no showings, and now you got to go back and reset. But that still doesn't do anything to your number of days on the market. So now people are looking at it, oh, what happened? So the perception is everything. Without rambling, perception means everything. If you're going to give somebody a product, you want them to fall in love with that product when they walk in the door. And when you see it online and it's different, and then you walk in the door, it's totally different. That's something that makes people question it. So, and I know I'm rambling, but you're going to.
No, you hitting it on the head, right?
Right.
Like you hitting it on the head. So then there are some situations. So let's say you're an agent and you cannot get your seller to invest in the staging, and virtual staging is just not an option. What would you recommend that agent then do?
So you're saying if the seller didn't want to stage or virtual stage?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, there are situations like that, and you kind of give them every scenario. Once you cover you've kind of covered it. You've told them, if you do this, this is what happens. If you don't do this, this is what can happen. And 9 times out of 10, when you explain these things and don't give people the shock factor by not telling them what can happen, then they're not surprised, because the only thing they can say, oh, she told me to stage it. It's not like I didn't tell you to stage it. And it's almost like I come back with, you can't afford to stage it, but honestly, you cannot afford not to stage it because of what buyers look like. I even had an agent tell me before, it was a little while ago, he said, I don't show houses that are not staged. Really? Now you put that in the buyer's brain. Like, I mean, you shouldn't say that. You shouldn't say that. But when buyers agents are having these conversations, a lot of times buyers agents are pushing off their opinions onto buyers. And now you put this in your buyer's head. Well, I don't want to see a house that's not staged. Why don't you? Because my agent said we shouldn't see houses that are not staged. You know what I mean? So sometimes buyers agents can talk themselves out of deals by saying stuff like that. But again, I fully recommend staging, especially if you have a property where this may be an odd shaped room. A stager can show you how to set it up, as opposed to some people that walk in these houses, they don't have a design eye. So they're just looking at it, oh, this is too small for my bed, or this is that. And once the staging is in there, they have a whole different outlook on it. So again, it just depends on the house, the buyer, the stager. You got to factor in everything and advise your seller when they're selling the house, what could happen if you don't, and what happens when you do. So when you cover all those avenues, you kind of give the seller, you don't give the seller room to say, well, you didn't tell me this. You know what I mean? So, and nobody, don't get me wrong, I've had deals or lost listings because sellers didn't listen, or maybe we just didn't get along, and you lose the listing to somebody else. And then, because I posted about this too, 3-4 months later down the line, they got another agent and they sell it for the same price you already told them to sell it for.
Yeah, I remember you talked about,
you know what I mean? So
person like, why you didn't listen?
There's so many different scenarios. Nobody's perfect, and everybody ain't gonna like you. I could be neighborhood Tiff, but to somebody else, they'd be like, oh, I didn't get along with her. It's just the nature of the business. But you do your due diligence in the beginning. You tell people, you tell the buyer or the client or with the seller, whatever, every scenario that you can think of. And then at the end of the day, if those scenarios come up and they go against what you said, then you've already told them. What can you do? You got me at a time where I just want to talk.
Listen, I got to the perfect time. All right, so 1, we talk about staging. All right, so 2, we're going to talk about, you want people to stop engaging seasoned realtors like they know them. right? So if I am a new agent and I have a deal and I don't want to come across as if I'm a chump, right? But I want to be also respected by you. How can I approach you in a deal where I do not come across as an inexperienced? And I say that because I remember it was you and who was it? I think it was Anisha Brinkley, and y'all
Mhm.
were talking about people might call you and be like, "Hey Nisha, like, hey Jeff, whoa, like you don't, like you basically you don't know me. Like, how are you gonna like just talk to me like like you know me, right?" So, but you also want to, I guess, have the respect of an agent who has been in the game. So, like, what would my second question is? What is the recommendation you would have for an agent who wants to interact, be respected, and interacting with a more seasoned agent? Like, how would you rectify or correct that?
Well, let me start here. I don't think I'm all that. Actually, and this is weird that you say this, I actually suffer from imposter syndrome. Um,
Mm.
so a
Mm.
lot of times, I guess people will come across as, oh my God, you're Tiffany. I want to be just like you. And I'm looking at people like, you don't want to be like me. You know what I mean? Or I'm downplaying the accomplishments that I do have because I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to overplay them to people. So I feel like I'm approachable.
Mm-hmm.
There are times in deals. First of all, nobody knows everything in this business. No, I don't care how long you've been in the business. The
Right.
business is ever changing. It's ever evolving. And nobody knows everything. We all make mistakes because I'd have made plenty of them. So I'm never to the point where I feel like I'm better than or know more than. I try to
Uh-huh.
be as humble as I can in this business, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
always willing to help if you're willing to receive it. So
Mm-hmm.
when agents come across, not necessarily that they think they know everything, but they come across with an attitude or they might think they know everything, then I'm one to kind of fall back. But I've worked with several agents on several occasions where I've had to help them through the process, and I have no problem
Absolutely.
with that because I've been there. And you don't get certain places in life just being mean and nasty or just actually thinking somebody's supposed to bow down to you or anything like that. I never want anybody to think I come across like that because I still have a lot to learn. And one of the reasons why I switched brokerages is because I felt like I wanted to learn from agents that were doing way more volume than myself.
And you had said that too. You
Yeah, I
said that was
feel like I
important.
do. I feel like I do well, and the brokerage that I came from, I felt like I was here. It had nothing to do with the brokerage because, all due respect, I built my career there, but I just felt like I was at a ceiling there, and I didn't have anywhere else to go. So I wanted to get to a brokerage where I felt like we are all on the same page, but we can learn a lot from each other. And I think in this industry, you can't be so big of a person where just because you do a lot of deals don't mean that you know everything. Because
Right.
again, we're all still learning in this business. So you have to be teachable. And I'm gonna go to the what is the 48 laws of power, the 50 cent, whoever made them up.
Mm.
Never outshine the master because you
Right.
can always learn. There you go. There you go. There you go.
Yeah, I'm
Never
already digging
outshine
into
the
it.
master because
Mm-hmm.
you never know in this industry. You never, especially in this Baltimore real estate, you never know who you're going to have to come across again.
Who knows who?
Right. So you don't want to be that agent that, oh my God, she's hard to work with. She's this. Now I done got, I listen, a couple years ago when I was going through my midlife crisis and I might have snapped at anybody. I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. And if I did, you listen, I apologize. But at the same time, you can never be so up here in this business that
Mm-hmm.
you forget where you are, where you came from. Because the minute your name can be popular today and then
Mm-hmm.
tomorrow, something different because you're only as good as your last deal.
No,
You
that's
do one thing wrong, that can ruin your whole career. So never think that you're to the point where you can't be touched or just because you sell so many houses, they going to want no, that don't mean shit. What am I supposed to cut on here?
oh listen, we already did it, so let's keep rolling.
That don't mean shit. At the end of the day, it's who you are as a person. who you're willing to help and who you're willing to give back to. There are so many agents, I call them my nieces, I call them my nephews, because they look up to me. They call me and ask me questions before they call a broker. And I'm okay to help. You ask me about somebody, you're not gonna come to me talking about nobody, because I'm not gonna give you that, that kind of advice, but I can kind of tell you how to calm a situation. Because trust me, I've probably been in all of them. But I'm that agent that's more like the auntie that tries to help. But if you get me wrong, Lord have mercy. I'm better now. I'm better though. I'm better. I'm telling you, the midlife crisis thing almost took me out of here. The mental health, that's why I'm really big on mental health, because I think it's extremely important. In this market, when a lot of agents got in the market into 2020 or those early 2020s or whatever, when the market was, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Now this is like WTF. You know what I mean? How do you sustain? How do you stay in the business? I'm this year, maybe 24 years in the business. I'm working on selling my 1,000th house, 1,000 house. You know what I mean? So I'm trying to get to that mark. I might be close to it. I don't know. I try not to count. I used to put up every year.
Gotta count. You gotta count.
I know, but see, again, that comes back to my imposter syndrome, where I feel like if I put up how many houses I sold, I'm showing off. You know what I mean? And I know that's not the case, but I don't want to make anybody feel like I'm trying to, just push it out there because of the numbers and stuff. I work my ass off in an industry where it's very competitive, and it didn't just fall in my lap. I had to work to get investors to trust me, to be loyal to keep coming back to, and to be able to have the number one thing. Me and Eric Crash, that's my bro. The number one thing we always talk about is relationships and how important they are. You burn these bridges early on in your career, trust me, it's over. You might not think it is, but it can ruin your career, because now you become, and then with social media being so relevant now. See, when we started, it wasn't no social media. I had to advertise houses in the Baltimore Sun and the Evening Sun and the Sunday Sun. And then when we went to show houses, sometimes you had to go to the brokerage to get the key, or you had to have this little thing you put on the lock and it opens the door. We weren't able to say, hey, I just sold a house, I'm at closing, taking pictures. We weren't able to do that. Now you are more vulnerable, because now everybody is seeing what you do and they're looking at you. So you can think that, a situation or whatever's going on, people talk, they talk. Trust me. And this is one of those careers where it can be long-term or it can be short-lived.
Oh yeah, and that actually leads into my next question, right? So now it is now January. I know that those GBBR and all the other dues hit up in July, right? So if you are an agent, one of the things we're not doing is we're not doing training this year. So what is one training that you are seeing from the other side of the table that you would recommend other agents invest in, like from a GBBR standpoint?
Well, I don't know. I think GBR, because I don't know if me and Tiffany or me and Jason, somebody mentioned it, professionalism. I think professionalism is really important these days, because a lot of agents don't have it. I'll get a random text, 9 o'clock at night. I want to show your listing. Okay. Who are you? Who are you with? And which property are you talking about? So we get these calls all the time where agents just start talking, and you're supposed to say, my name is Tiffany Domnes. I'm with Vibe Realty. I'm talking about your listing at 123 Main Street. Do you have any offers? I think a level of professionalism should be required for this industry. I think it should be continuing ed. If it's not already, I could be misspeaking, because a lot of agents just do not have it. And again, those are things that carry along with you over time. Like if you're not professional, regardless if we homeboys, homegirls, you still got to maintain a level of profession. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of agents, and I don't just want to beat up on the newer agents, because regardless of whether you're newer or you older, if you don't have it, you just don't have it. But I think professionalism is extremely important, and that also goes into relationship building. You know what I mean? Like if I got a property and I know so and so just bought me an offer,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And then they were great to work with. They were amazing. The lender was amazing. But then this guy brings me an offer and they were hell to work with. The
Mm-hmm.
lender is horrible. I can't choose the offer for the seller because I'm going to present the offer to the seller, but I'm also going to present my experience with this agent and this lender to the seller as well. So I think to answer your question, I think professionalism is extremely important and it should be required when you're getting your license or in continuing education.
All right, so we're working on professionalism, definitely. Like I said, I hear a lot of y'all talk about it on a regular basis,
Yeah, we
especially.
be venting to you, Austin. We be venting.
Listen,
So
listen,
you might hear anything from us. I don't
listen, and
know.
that's good, and that's why I'm trying to, share it out and trying to have others, sit back and reflect as we kicking off the year, right? And
Right.
just reflect on your experience, as an agent. Like, what are some things that you can invest in your better? Because education is critical. Education is
Right.
key in
And
terms
growth. I mean, just growing
to
because
be able to grow, right?
again, 23, 24 years in the business, that sounds good, but it's almost like I feel like I'm aging out. I feel like it's an industry where if you're not up on the innovation and the technology, then you will get behind the waist. You will be in the river somewhere because at the end of the day, if you're not up on it, like I hear a
Mm-hmm.
lot of agents, I don't like social media. I don't like this. And I used to be one of those agents, but you have to use it to your advantage because this is where the deals are made on social media.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless, like you'll have an agent and they may not even have a listing, but they'll go in your listing, do a whole video, and guess what? It looks like they have listings. So again, it goes back to perception. Perception means everything in real estate. And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times people don't understand that. So that's extremely important.
Okay. Number four.
I'm glad you picked the type topics for me.
Listen, yeah, no, because these are things that I hear people talking about all the time, right?
Hmm.
So number four, if you were starting out the last couple years and you've been on the buyer side, but you want to now get on the seller side, what would you do, right? So, 2026, we're going to stop only being on the on the buyer side. How would you transition and try to get your first listing?
Well, I mean, it's tough. I would be telling you a story if I didn't say that it was. So you got I would say get in rooms, do your networking, continue to do the innovative stuff like the post, going into the houses, making the videos, talk to investors, talk to contractors because those are the ones that want to sell their houses. And I had this question similar to this come up to me because a lot of times when you're a buyer's agent somebody says, "Oh, here's a listing." You're so excited to get that listing. I mean, and you as you should be. But you also have to know how to sell that listing because a lot of times you'll be so excited not realizing that the seller wants $100,000 more than what it's worth and you just told him he could get it. So you have to be really knowledgeable and you have to really give sellers your honest opinion. You cannot just tell sellers what they want to hear just to get the listing because when it sits on the market and you told them it could sell at this price, you can get the blame for that. And then when it doesn't sell and you've done all this marketing and paid for photos and paid for staging or whatever and it doesn't sell, it kind of becomes your fault because you gave the seller an unrealistic expectation. So sellers a lot of and you do that because you want the listing. Trust me, I know. And I've been there and I've been in that situation. You have to be brutally honest and you hit sellers with facts. You give it to them in black and white. If they still decide to go against what you tell them, then
You at
that's
least
their
did
fault.
your, yeah, you at least did your due diligence,
Right.
right?
That's the number one word. Do your due diligence. Don't take a listing just because somebody wants to give you a listing. Do the research, do the work. It's not just, oh, Tiff get a lot of listings. Y'all don't know what Tiff go through because it seems like because you have so many listings that oh you got it made. Sellers can be just as difficult as buyers, especially if they don't understand the market. Like they'll come on and say, I want to get X amount of dollars, X amount of, but your house, and when you talk to Eric and I, when we started
Mm-hmm.
which we need to do again,
Mm-hmm.
we talked about how you want your house to sell for this amount, but this house has coffered ceilings, statement walls, high-end lighting, this, that, but you have none of that, and you want the same price, not if not even more, for a totally different product. So you got to be bluntly honest with sellers and investors in terms of how to price their properties, because if you price it incorrectly, then you will get the blame for it.
And I think even taking it a step further, right? Like I vividly remember you talking about it was a listing. Y'all had a nice pocket of like four listings on Harlem Ave.
Dukeland.
Really nice. Dukeland, on
Mhm.
Dukeland, really nice. And you were saying that other people after you had sold them were trying to pull comps, and you were like, "Yo, just because it's within 1 mile of that area, don't mean that that's a comp. So like, don't go and say this investor from out of town is going to buy this shell." Renovate it and do stuff is like you got to compare apples to apples. Like just
Apples
because
to
it's
apples.
within a half a mile, just within 4 blocks. If you got two shells to the left and the right, you're not going to be able to pull that comp because nobody's going to
Right.
move into a shell, into a house that's fully renovated and everything that's got two shells next to it.
So what we did on the 2000 block of Dukeland is, this was my nonprofit that I work for. You did the actual video for those houses, and
Mm-hmm.
it was amazing. So what we did was we had four maybe in a row. One was we didn't own it. It was maybe city owned or something to that nature. So we stood across the street and we were trying to come up with a strategy. That's the best thing that you can do with your developers, your investors. Come up with a strategy. So we stood across the street and I said, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to paint the whole block gray. We're going to camouflage the vacant. Vacant houses are all over Baltimore City. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you do come across houses where you've got this house and the next thing you know, you got a vacant. So you
Mm-hmm.
can call 311 to get them to close up the doors. You could get them to come get the trash. But when you have invested in a property, this now becomes a part of your investment. So the thing that I tell my investors to do is camouflage the vacant, paint the boards. I mean, you can only do with so much because it's not your house.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to get this house sold and there's trash all over the street, you can call 311, but don't wait for 311 to come clean it up. If you got people wanting to come see your house, you want them to come in and not do a drive-by. So I know I do realize some of these houses in these neighborhoods are difficult to sell, but Baltimore is a block by block. So again, going back to what you said, you have to compare apples to apples. Just
Have
because your house is a block or less than a block away, if you didn't do the same thing or something similar, because what I tell investors also, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. Don't
to.
go try to change the trends. When you start trying to change the trends, if you're not that, see, this is going into what I'm talking about with my flip strategy.
Go
So
ahead, do
we're
you?
going
Yeah,
into that because
tell it.
what I tell people is if you're going to, don't get your contractor to design your product. That's where so many people go wrong because they let the
Talk about that.
contractor take full circle in their project. And a lot of times contractors are not developers. They're there to do trades or whatever they're trying to do, but you don't want them to get into designing your house unless they're the type of contractor that sells those type of houses. Because if you don't know who your end buyer is, who's going to buy this house, and who you're designing for, you're actually really shooting yourself in the foot. So if you say, for instance, Austin, I'm the contractor, you're the investor, you own the house. So you've hired me to do the painting, to do maybe lay down the floors, do this, but you didn't hire me to pick out lighting. Okay. You didn't hire me to maybe do your layout. A lot of times sellers and investors don't realize that they need someone to design the product. So if you got, so for instance, I have a house now. They didn't finish the basement. Big mistake in a lot of areas that I sell in. But okay, if you didn't finish the basement, that means you need to blow out the upper levels to make it so clean and so nice that people are not going to
Not
realize the
second
basement.
guess, right? It's not gonna second guess it.
So you go, this guy, he goes and puts a washer and dryer in the basement. Nobody wants to go down there. So you left a complete blank space on the upper level where you could have put a laundry on the upper level, but
Mm-hmm.
instead you just left it a blank space and you put a washer and dryer in the basement that nobody's going to want to go into. So I say that when I say when it comes to design, your contractor is not the best person to design your product if that contractor is not knowledgeable about designing and the trends and so on and so forth. So again, that goes into my flip strategy program that I'm working on, that I'm gonna get you to.
That you got to launch like really soon, that
Yes,
we
yes,
can.
yes, yes. So
So,
I think I did a video where the block was vacant
hmm
and the guy bought one house, one house
hmm
on the block. Now you've got a finished product that looks actually good, but your whole block is vacant. So who's going to buy that house? How are you going to get rid of it? Now you're indebted to your hard money guy because you can't sell it. I don't
hmm
even know why your hard money guy loaned you money to do it. You know
hmm
what I mean? So
probably
you
because you out
as
of town too.
right, you as out of town, another out of towner, you as the investor, you have to consult with someone who's familiar and has the track record to back it up in those
hmm
neighborhoods.
hmm
And if you're not doing that, you could be running into a casualty, meaning not being able to sell your house, longer days on the market, having to reduce properties. I had a agent, not an agent, was it an agent? I don't know. Somebody say to me, well, we can always reduce the price. That's the worst strategy ever. The worst strategy ever, especially in this market. This market now, we do have times where we have to reduce prices, but starting off really high and then just saying I can keep reducing it is a horrible strategy.
You got to price it right the first time. That way you
Yep.
get in and get out. Because once you start doing that, it's blood in the water, and then
Right.
everybody gonna think there's something wrong with it, or
But investors and sellers have to listen. If you're just not listening to the professional that's trying to advise you, then you could be in a lot of trouble. So,
all right, all
yeah.
right, all right. So, and then number five, right? Number five, we're not going into this year without a strategy. So, I know you do a lot with chat. So, with that being said, from how much you use Chat GBT, how can someone prepare or start to think about what kind of real estate strategy they should have in 2026?
Chat GPT.
Okay.
But
Okay.
no, honestly, chat is a helpful tool,
Mm-hmm.
right? Especially if you know how to use it. And of course, I'm just learning how to prompt it and use it. But you cannot rely solely on it. You have to still do, because chat has made tons of mistakes and you catch them before it gets to that point. I think it's a powerful tool. And I think if you don't learn it, um, Chat GPT itself is not going to replace you, but
Oh no,
somebody
no,
who
no.
uses it will.
Oh
You
yeah.
get what I'm saying? So you have to learn it, and because I did with this consulting thing that I'm about to start, I kind of got a lot of ideas from there. So you can
Mm-hmm.
get a lot of ideas from there, but the follow through, following up on how you're going to do it, how you're going to implement it, what you're going to do to make it stronger, and how you can just pull it all together is what I think is extremely important, because I'm one that's probably late to the party with it, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to necessarily say live by it, but I like what it does and I like how it helps me. Like I had a problem with acne recently. Never
Mm-hmm.
had acne in my life. So I didn't know how to treat it. So I put all my symptoms in chat. I said, chat, give me a list from Sephora to go buy. And whatever chat did, it cleaned up my face.
See,
So,
and see how
so
powerful a tool that is.
yes, so it's ways you can use it, but I wouldn't necessarily rely solely on it,
Oh yeah.
because it does make mistakes. It
Oh
does
yeah.
absolutely make mistakes.
Oh yeah. No, but what I think you nailed it on the head, right? Like if you need a starting point to get started, it's not going to replace you, but it will assist you in trying to start to formulate some ways to go and look at. But you still have to do the legwork, right?
Right,
You
right.
know, there are a lot of agents who I've seen that try to use it as a sole end all be all instead of, excuse me, using it like as a creative strategy. So,
Right. And even because when I get emails,
mm-hmm,
I look at the emails, I'm like, okay, dude, you just copied and pasted everything chat said. No,
mm-hmm,
put your own words in there, go in there and tweak it, take out all of those bullet points that it
mm-hmm,
sends. Because as soon as you send me something from Chat GPT, I can tell it came from Chat GPT. Now,
mm-hmm,
I just did an analysis on a property with Chat GPT because I wanted to tell the seller, really, give them all the different scenarios of how it would sell this property. So
mm-hmm,
I went in and I tweaked it with my own wording to make it sound like it wasn't just chat. You know what I mean? And when I sent it to him, I'm like, how'd you like my synopsis? He's like, oh, it was really great. He said, I said, well, Chat GPT helped me. He's like, yeah, I know. He said, but I know it was more so you. I could tell it didn't just come strictly from Chat GPT. So you don't want to
Hmm.
completely rely on that solely as a resource, because you still want to do your own legwork. Because if you tell Chat GPT to pull comps for a certain area, it's not pulling the comps that you want. You know what I mean? So you can't, because I do, me, 21216 is my,
Hmm.
that's my
You know,
start.
forwards and backwards.
Right. So when I start to ask Chat GPT to pull comps, some of those comps are too low. They don't understand the neighborhood. They don't understand the market, so on and so forth. So you have to go put your own. It's not a tool meant to be lazy. You don't have to do anything. You still have to put work into it to make it work for you.
Hmm. No, totally, totally. Totally. All right. So as we begin to wrap up, I want to do a plug for the investor workshop. So, what are some things that people can expect to see from the investor workshop, and what is the outcome or goal that you, Marcus, and Mark have for people who are looking to subscribe to this offering that you're going to be having?
So we want to, because I get so tired of, I guess, investors or sellers coming to me after they can't sell the house and they blame it on the agent. 90% of the time, it's not the agent's fault. It's the seller's fault, the investor's fault, where they didn't research the market. They didn't understand what the pivotal point in doing this is all about. So it's like I have an investor now where they want to start scaling back on some of the stuff that they do in these houses. I'm like, well, you can, but you're also going to hurt your end buyer who looks for these things. So
Mm-hmm.
just knowing who you're selling to, knowing that you may need a designer to come in and help you design this project, what it's going to cost versus what you're going to lose if you don't. So those are the things that we're trying to touch on with investors. Flipping outside the box. I think that's what we kind of trying to, we're heading towards that name because I had flip strategy, but Marcus came up with flipping outside the box. We're putting it together as a workshop for investors. It can even be agents who are looking to maybe get into investing and just how to sell your properties. I focus on Baltimore City.
Mm-hmm.
So my focus on telling agents and investors how to sell these properties is Baltimore City. So I don't want to get it twisted when it comes to PG County and certain areas that I'm not familiar or savvy in. I'm not trying to tell people how to sell in certain areas. I'm just focusing on the area that I sell in, Baltimore City.
Okay.
So those are some of the things that we're doing. And it doesn't have to be just necessarily investors. We're talking about homeowners. How, if you have a home and you live in it and you're trying to get it sold, the what to do's and the what not to do's. So those are the things that we're trying to focus on and just getting your property sold. Less time on the market, more maximizing the value that you can get for it. So when you stage the property, how much more a person is willing to pay for it as when you don't stage it, now it looks like a rental. So just giving people those different scenarios and just looking at the areas that are up and coming, the areas that people think are up and coming and are not. So yeah, just addressing any topic when it comes to selling a property.
Perfect, perfect, perfect.
Yeah.
So by spring, we should have an outline and everything done and ready to go.
I'm the biggest
Over the
procrastinator
next
in the
2 weeks,
world. You already know. I'm like, one minute I'll be like, oh, this is good, this is good, this is good. Next minute I'm like, oh my God. So I'm a thought person. Like
mhm.
I can do this, all the stuff in my brain, but it's the execution where I can't sometimes fall flat.
Oh yeah,
Bringing
so
it
yeah,
all
the next
together.
2 weeks you and I are gonna sit and talk, and I'm gonna lay it out for you, Mark and Marcus, on how we're gonna get it going, and then we're gonna take it a step further because there's a platform called School, and you, Reagan, and me can talk about it. So everything we put down, if people don't get it in person, you can put it on School, and people be able to get the same thing, and then you be able to make money while you sleep.
Yeah, and that's, and again, that all of what I talk about, I laugh and joke, but the mental health is an extremely, and we're doing that again in the spring as well. We just
Hmm.
don't want to plan anything during the winter months because a lot of times you have to cancel and change and it just gets too tricky. So we're going to come back with the staying sane in real estate. That's going to be coming up in the spring. We got a great reception about it, and so many people missed it. They want to come out. So it's just the mental health part. again, the imposter syndrome that I suffer from, that I'm still working on daily. So I don't want people to
We
think,
all are. Yeah.
right, and I
Yeah.
don't want people to think, and when you say imposter syndrome, it almost sounds like it's opposite than what it is. I didn't even know it existed. You know what I mean? So now that I know, I see that, downplaying when Tiff, you worked your ass off to get to this point. Why do you feel like you want to, be afraid to share it? You know what I mean? So coming out of
Mhm.
those shells and becoming the person that I really want to be has
Mhm.
been difficult because, again, mental health is real. I'll keep saying it, and I'm not afraid to say it, that those are the things that we need to prioritize before we even try to sell a house. Get your mental health in check, because when you're not right up here,
It
how
impacts
can you
everything
service
else.
somebody else? Right? How can you service somebody else? It's been times where you're in a settlement room and everybody high fiving, yay, yay, but you go into the car and like FUCK. You know
Right.
what I mean?
No,
Like,
real talk.
I got another 3 months before I get another settlement. Or what am I going to do because I'm playing catch up? So I like to talk on those levels to everybody, to let everybody know we've all been in your shoes. If you're in a position where real estate just ain't real estate, and I don't think it's real estate for none of us right now. But
Hmm.
the one thing about real estate is it forever changes. You never know what you're going to get. So you just have to be in positions where you can pivot. And this is why we're going into the consulting portion and the investing portion and things of that nature. So yeah, we getting it out there. I know I talked you to death.
No, no, this is good. Like I said, and this is big because everybody needs this, right?
Right,
And it's
right,
one
right.
of them things where, and we're gonna do this more often because you're holding me accountable. We're just gonna have real conversations with people, and to talk about topics that what I mean, that they want to talk and ask questions for, and they just not feel like they have a safe space to be able to ask it,
Yeah, and I
right?
think I think the two important words for 2026 are accountability and intentionality. I think those are two extremely important words that, yesterday when it was New Year's Eve, I sent, instead of sending out your traditional text Happy New Year, I sent all of my close female friends, my girlfriends, my
Mm-hmm.
girls that I talk to,
Mm-hmm.
a voice memo. So I just said, instead of scrolling through a text, I wanted you to hear my voice, to let you know that this year is time to be intentional and to stop making promises to each other that we're not going to keep, because life is so short and we are challenged every single day.
Every day.
Nothing is promised to any of us. So again, you can have a good year one year and the next year you'd be like, oh my God, you know what I mean? This is real estate. So it's to be expected. It's everything is not going to be great. But those are the times that you learn and you're able to go into different avenues and to pivot. Like I was telling James from Vibe the other day, we did something similar to this on Riverside. I went from doing REO and having a whole portfolio of 30 REOs. And then when the banks collapsed, they took all of that shit from me. You know what I mean? So you got to figure out how to pivot and how to stay relevant. Because just because you've been in the business 20 some years, that don't mean nothing. The agents that when I came into business, of course, they're probably a lot older now, but you go from seeing the agent doing, oh my God, she does so much, to, damn, what happened to her? I don't want to be
Mm-hmm.
that agent. I don't want to be that agent. So I try to keep up with my Jay-Z quotes and to try to, stay relevant or whatever, but times are changing and we have to evolve. If we're not willing to evolve in this business, then probably should pick another career.
You gotta switch. So,
Yeah,
but we're operating in a spirit of excellence, and we're gonna help people get to where they need to go in
absolutely.
2026 together.
And
All right.
I'm still weirded out by 2026. Like I'm still in 2025. I'm trying to get my mindset right.
Listen, I
So
already know. I already know. When I go back to
yeah,
work on Monday, I'm gonna have that issue. So,
yeah, because I thought today was Friday. Honestly, I did.
yeah,
I did. So
for
yeah.
sure, for
But
sure.
yeah, we're gonna keep, and I like how you always, you're one of the people that actually holds me accountable, Austin. You do.
No,
And I
appreciate it.
appreciate you for everything that you do, everything that you've done, because you have been impactful in this Baltimore real estate. You know what I mean? And
No,
if I can,
appreciate it.
because I just referred you to somebody the other day, if I can continue to spread the word, and we just, again, another thing for 2026,
Mhm.
collaboration over competition.
For
We ain't got to
real.
compete with nobody. It's enough out here for everybody to get some of it. Take your knowledge and share it with somebody else. Because guess what? At the end of the day, you can't take it with you. You
You
know,
can't.
you're so smart, but you're not. willing to share, that just doesn't make sense. It
It
doesn't.
doesn't make sense, and I
You
think
know what I mean?
we all have the same goal, right? We want to see
Right.
more individuals who look like us out here involved and succeeding in this real estate industry,
But
right?
you got to be teachable. You don't
You
know everything.
you
You get what I'm
don't
saying?
know.
Just because you done a whole bunch of deals, that don't mean nothing. Because I'll say it and I'll continue to say it. You're only as good as your last deal. The minute you F up, people will write you off in a
Mm-hmm.
heartbeat. So just keep those things in mind. And I can go on and on. We're gonna have to say that for the next podcast, but
Okay.
honestly, I can't to a new or newer agent, I can't stress that enough. Like people will wash you up in a heartbeat. You know what I mean? It's
If you know
only
about you,
right, and you have to stay relevant. And the most important thing is be kind to people. Just don't get your ass up on your back and think that because you've done this and because you've done that, you're untouchable. You're not. You're
you think
not.
that people care about that because
You know
even
what I
a lot
mean?
of people.
You have to stay humble in this business because none of us know everything. We don't. We don't. I'm still learning and I'm 20 some years in the game. You know what I mean? So, and I'm still making mistakes.
And you gotta
So,
want to learn. You have to
trust me.
want to. Like every time you're around somebody, like, yo, what can I learn from that person? Be observant, stay quiet, watch them interact, and go from there.
Right, and just be a sponge, soak up all the information you can soak up. You know what I mean?
For
Because your style, just because you do it this way, doesn't make it right or wrong.
real.
But you can always learn from somebody.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Absolutely.
But all right, Tiff. Until next time, for
Okay.
those who are watching us, make sure you drop a comment, say something. We look forward to seeing you more and more in 2026.
Absolutely.
All
Say
right,
less.
see
Let's
you.
get it.
Peace.
Peace.